Hi, I'm Dana White. I'm the Curve Programme Development Officer here at Slough Borough Council. I work in the Libraries and Culture department, and I'm going to be doing the talk around programming a touring arts offer. So there's some key things that I think you need to think about when programming an offer, especially in libraries. So audience development is at the core of all of our programming, and that is a really, really key factor in the success of that programming. Within that, you need to think about gathering data on your audiences. You need to know who your audiences are, who you're trying to entice, who you already have within your audiences that are already regularly coming to things. Who are you missing out? Where are they going? What is your competition? And how can you program successfully to bring those people who aren't already engaging with your service into your service? So one of the key things I'm going to talk about first is that audience development and where to start. So we started by doing a mass survey, not just to our users, but to residents in Slough, so people who used our service and people who didn't. And we asked a wide range of questions within that, but around programming, a lot of the things we asked were, what do you already go to? Where do you go to do that? What would you like to see in your libraries? And we took a lot of the information gathered from that and have used that to inform our programming. So we had a big response around children and families, that family theatre was something that people wanted to see, that comedy was a big thing that people were interested in. And so both of those things are now a big part of our programme, and we've kind of been able to reflect on what people have said and then what we've done to implement what they've said they would want to see. One of the other tools that we used whilst we started this audience development were empathy maps. So thinking about those people in the community that we should be reaching that we're not currently, and rather than thinking about it from our perspective, how do we get them to our building, we flipped that and reversed that and thought about, okay, well, if I'm that person, what does the library service mean to me? Why would I go into that building? What is my day-to-day? And through that, we then looked at, okay, well, how, if we want to reach that person, what are the methods that we go to get that person involved? And that all ties into that holistic overview of what does that person's life look like and where do we fit to that? So the other things we thought about were transport links, in our communities outside of the town centre, where are they going? Are they travelling to the town centre? Are they not? How often are they? What are they going there for? And we used all of that information to build kind of programming guidelines as to who we're programming for and why. And we linked that into wider strategic priorities, council priorities, department priorities, and have kind of used that as a guideline. An audience development isn't something that you just do at the beginning and then that's it. You want to challenge your audiences, you want to grow new audiences, and we do a lot of the challenging and data gathering. We continue that data gathering through things like post-show surveys, where we ask, what difference did this make to you? And that helps with our evaluation. But we also ask things like, what else would you like to see in your library or at the Curve? And again, there's just that constant communication, and those communication lines are always open as to what people want to see. So when you're thinking about your audiences, there should be 4 kind of sections that you're thinking about why you are doing something, why you're putting this event on, why you're programming it. And that should be that you're trying to get a new audience to a new thing, a new experience. So pushing those experimentals that are in your areas to come and try something new at a new place. They should be new audiences coming to something that you regularly offer. And so that could be something like your story and music times, getting new audiences to those. Or if you offer something regular and consistent, getting new people to come to those things. The third is having your regular audiences try something new, and that's around challenging those audiences you already have that relationship with. So it could be those story and music time families, encouraging them to take part in something that is a bit more arts focused and a different kind of event, so family theatre or VR or something like that. And then the fourth strand to that audience development idea is building those consistent audiences with your consistent program. So just doing those things that you do really well, maintaining that relationship and maintaining that quality. So quality is the next thing I want to talk about. It's something that is really, really subjective. And so again, that communication around audience development comes in massively here, because you can get those people through the door. If they're not impressed with the quality of what they see, they potentially may not come back. So it's working with your audiences, having, we sometimes use focus groups or work with community groups to get the input of the people that we want to go to the event. We use them to kind of test out what the event is going to be, and whether they are impressed with the quality or not. And because if you get a good quality event, that really influences what your audiences think about you. Word of mouth, which is the biggest, most useful form of marketing, quality is a massive factor in that. So it's really, really important that what you're programming is quality. But because it's so subjective, it's difficult to know what is good quality. And so some of the ways that we kind of test quality before we book something in is looking at the artwork and the marketing that the theatre company or the arts organisation have given you for the tour. That is a huge indicator of how you can sell tickets, how well that will sell. The quality of the work doesn't always reflect in the quality of the marketing. So don't be scared to have that conversation with the arts organisations. They want the show to sell just as well as you do. So kind of really make that a big point that quality in marketing is a big sell. We also look at what knowledge the people we're working with have around specific audiences. So if we are targeting an audience, so we're looking for work that will really engage that audience in particular, it's really key that company have proof and a good record of working with those audiences. So for example, we have our Relax program that is all around engaging families, young people, children with neurodiverse conditions. And so if we program work specifically for that audience, we need to know that those artists and that company have that experience and are able to deal with those audiences in a really meaningful way. And that's true of any targeted programming you're doing. One of the other things that I look out for as a programmer is recommendations from other arts venues, other libraries, where people have said, oh, we had this show and the company were brilliant to work with, they were really flexible, they had really good experience in this and that. That's really key. So building those networks with other people who are trying to do the same thing as you. Online programs of other venues, and I think one of the things as library services we often get scared to do is compare ourselves to arts venues, because we're not arts venues in the traditional sense. But that doesn't mean that the work that tours to arts venues can't tour to our libraries. And so that's something that I started doing and had a real impact on what I was programming, was seeing what else was out there. And I think looking in arts centres where they have a studio space, often the work that is put on in that studio space, there is flexibility to make it work in a non-traditional space. Looking at the Rural Touring Initiative and seeing what's produced from there. But I think hand in hand with the audience development side of things, I would say looking at wraparound activities. So getting that initial engagement in the form of a workshop can sometimes be more beneficial, and that in itself is audience development. So for example, if we were to we are having a dance show in 2020. Now that's a new audience for us. We don't have a dance audience, but the way that I've programmed it is that we will have workshops, community outreach workshops leading up to the main show. And through that, we will gain an audience from the people who have entered the arts from another direction. They haven't come into it expecting to come and see a show. They've got that investment because they personally are invested in what they've put into that workshop and they want to see the final product. So I would look at also wraparound activities as a key thing that arts organisations or theatre companies should be offering if you're wanting to develop audiences. In terms of finding work, I think there's a few things you need to think about before you go and look. As a venue or a service, I think you need to decide whether you want to work with artists to create something specific to your library and your space, or whether you want to just be able to buy in a show, and that obviously would feed into your wider programming, but that you wouldn't be involved in the creation of the work, you would be involved in the presentation. So like I said, I looked at loads of other arts venues, looked at what they were doing, and also the other thing that really helped me was looking at the programme in a much wider scale. So going from looking at leaflet to leaflet or month to month to 6 months, and programming those 6 months to be a coherent, cohesive programme, and then hopefully to 12 months, so that, you know, we can group things together and have mini festivals, and that in itself draws more audiences and new audiences to it. I think it's really important to look at what other organisations are out there to support you. The Arts Council have so many sector support organisations that are there to help with programming, that are there to help with touring arts. I think it's about doing that bit of groundwork to find out who is around you and what support is on offer. So a resource that we've made lots of use of is House. And they have been amazing in terms of connecting us with artists, pushing us to do audience development and look at how we develop those different audiences for different parts of our programme. But they've also been amazing in terms of helping us think about ourselves as a venue and ourselves as an art space. So I would definitely recommend looking at their resources. A huge topic in programming is ticket pricing. There's the really tough debate around value and accessibility. So I think one of the things you need to decide when you're starting your programme is which areas of your programme are you going to be subsidising, which areas are you going to be focusing on in terms of developing those new audiences, so it is taking a risk, and which are you wanting to not take as much of a financial risk, but you know that you're going to have people come into those things. So those regular audiences to regular things that we talked about, for those people, are you spending more money on that and making the quality better and better, or are you happy with those people are coming, that means that we can afford to spend a bit more on a really out there event that's going to get completely new audiences in. So just to recap, the key things I think are in programming a touring arts offer is doing a lot of work around audience development, through, you know, building those relationships, keeping that communication open at all times, and really embedding the voice of the residents or your users into that programme, giving them full ownership. So second is quality, and remembering that that's really subjective, but trying to keep the opinions of the audience at the core of what you're programming. Third is finding work and not being scared to look at what other arts venues are doing. You don't need to consider yourself an arts venue, but look at where other arts and culture is happening and how you could potentially bring that into your space. And finally, ticket pricing, looking at that idea around added value, and looking at which areas of your programme, your regular users for your regular things, where you can use that to compensate for new audiences and new things and still be experimental.